As twilight settles over the world, imagine yourself standing on the edge of an ancient land, where mist curls gently over emerald hills and the whispers of a civilization older than time itself drift on the wind. This is China, a realm of emperors and poets, of towering dynasties and quiet villages, where the past feels alive, woven into the very fabric of the earth. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the complete history of China, a story that stretches back over 5 millennia, from the shadowy dawn of myth to the vibrant pulse of the modern age. This is not just a tale of dates and battles, but of people, farmers tilling the fertile Yellow River plains, scholars penning timeless verses under flickering lamplight, and rulers whose ambitions shaped the destiny of millions. Picture the Great Wall snaking across rugged mountains, its stones worn by centuries of watchful silence. Envision bustling markets along the Silk Road, where merchants traded not just goods but ideas that would ripple across continents. Feel the weight of a culture that gave the world paper, gunpowder, and philosophies that still guide us today. This video is crafted for you to relax, to drift into the soothing cadence of history as you prepare for sleep, yet to be captivated by a narrative that feels as alive as a dream. Whether you're here to learn or simply to let the story carry you into the night, this journey will unfold with a gentle rhythm, pulling you deeper into the heart of China's past. We'll traverse the rise and fall of dynasties, from the legendary Xia to the mighty Qing, and explore how a single civilization endured through triumph and turmoil, shaping the world in ways both profound and subtle. Each chapter will flow like a river, carrying you through time with vivid imagery and reflective pauses, inviting you to imagine yourself walking alongside emperors, rebels, and dreamers. So, settle in, let the worries of the day fade, and allow the story of China to unfold like a scroll under the stars. Hello, my name is Sherry, and welcome to my channel. So let's begin. As the first stars begin to pierce the velvet sky, let us step back into the mists of time, to an era where myth and history blur like ink spreading through water. This is the dawn of Chinese civilization, a time so ancient it feels like a whisper from the earth itself. Picture the Yellow River, its waters winding through fertile plains, cradling the seeds of a culture that would endure for millennia. The river's gentle murmur was the heartbeat of early China, nourishing the land and its people, who learned to coax crops from the soil and build homes of tamped earth under boundless skies. Here, in this cradle of civilization, the story of China begins. Not with grand palaces or written records, but with legends that flicker like firelight, passed from one generation to the next. The earliest tales speak of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, figures shrouded in myth yet revered as the architects of Chinese society. Imagine Fu Xi, the first sovereign, teaching humanity to fish with nets and tame the wild beasts, his eyes gleaming with wisdom as he gazed upon a world yet to be shaped. Or picture Nuwa, the goddess who, in the stories, molded humans from yellow clay, breathing life into them with a mother's care. These figures, half deity, half ancestor, are said to have gifted China its first tools, laws, and rituals, threads that would weave the fabric of a civilization. Their stories, told around flickering hearths, gave the people a sense of origin, a connection to the land and the heavens above. But as we drift from legend into history, we find traces of a real past, etched in the earth along the Yellow River. Archaeologists have uncovered the bones of this early world at sites like Erlitou, believed by many to be the heart of the Xia Dynasty, China's first, shadowy realm of rulers. Around 2070 BCE, or so the chronicles suggest, the Xia emerged, a society of farmers and warriors led by the heroic Yu the Great. Imagine Yu, standing ankle-deep in floodwaters, his hands calloused from years of digging channels to tame the river's wrath. His legend tells of a man who conquered floods not with magic but with relentless labor, uniting tribes to build a kingdom where order replaced chaos. The Erlitou ruins reveal bronze vessels and jade ornaments, hints of a society growing in sophistication, where rituals honored the ancestors and the land itself was sacred. The Yellow River was more than a lifeline. It was a teacher. Its floods taught resilience, its bounty fostered community, and its vastness inspired awe. Villages clustered along its banks, their homes of mud and straw humming with life, children chasing each other through fields, elders sharing stories under ancient trees, and shamans reading the will of the heavens in the patterns of cracked tortoise shells. These early Chinese were not just surviving. They were creating a culture, one that valued harmony with nature and reverence for the past. The land shaped them, and they, in turn, shaped the land, building irrigation canals and terraced fields that mirrored the curves of the river. Yet, even in this fertile cradle, life was not without struggle. Tribes clashed over resources, and the river's unpredictable floods could wipe away years of toil in a single night. Imagine a farmer, standing amidst the wreckage of his fields, gazing at the horizon, wondering if the gods had turned their backs. It was in these moments of hardship that the seeds of Chinese philosophy were sown, ideas of balance, of cycles, of a world where order could be restored through human effort and divine favor. These early beliefs would ripple through the centuries, shaping the way China saw itself and its place in the cosmos. As we linger in this ancient world, picture a night sky unbroken by city lights, where the Milky Way stretches like a celestial river. The people of the Xia, if indeed they were a dynasty, looked to the stars for guidance, just as they looked to their leaders. Their world was one of beginnings, of tentative steps towards something greater. The tools they crafted, the stories they told, the rituals they performed, these were the foundations of a civilization that would one day span continents. But for now, they were a people of the river, bound by its rhythms, dreaming of a future they could not yet see. And so, as the night deepens and the Yellow River flows on, we stand at the edge of a new chapter. What happens when this young civilization begins to write its own story, carving its thoughts into bone and bronze? The answer lies just beyond the horizon, where the first true dynasty awaits, its legacy etched in the very words that would define China for millennia to come. As the night settles deeper, imagine yourself standing on a windswept plain, the air thick with the scent of earth and sacrifice. The Yellow River glints faintly under a crescent moon, its waters carrying the dreams of a people stepping out of myth into history. This is the era of the Shang Dynasty, rising around 1600 BCE, a time when China's ancient heartbeat grew stronger, pulsing with new rhythms of power, ritual, and words carved into eternity. The Shang were not merely a kingdom. They were a civilization that wove together the sacred and the earthly, leaving behind a legacy that would shape the soul of China. Picture their cities, like the Great Inshu, where mud brick walls rose from the soil, and the smoke of offerings curled toward the heavens, carrying prayers to ancestors and gods. The Shang were a people of bronze and bone, their world alive with the clang of forges and the whispers of diviners. At the heart of their society were the kings, seen as intermediaries between the human and divine, their authority rooted in rituals that bound the living to the dead. Imagine a royal court, shadowed by flickering torches, where a king kneels before a polished tortoise shell, its surface etched with questions for the ancestors. Will the harvest thrive? Will war bring victory? The diviner, eyes narrowed in concentration, heats the shell until it cracks, reading the fractures like a map of fate. These oracle bones, inscribed with the earliest known Chinese script, were more than tools of prophecy. They were the birth of writing, a revolution that allowed thoughts, laws, and histories to endure beyond the spoken word. Walk through the streets of Inshu, and you'd hear the hum of a bustling society. Artisans hammered molten bronze into vessels of breathtaking intricacy, their surfaces swirling with dragon motifs that seemed to writhe in the firelight. These were not mere objects but sacred treasures, used in ceremonies to honor the ancestors whose spirits were believed to guide the living. Picture a family gathered around an altar, offering wine and jade to their forebears, their voices soft with reverence. The Shang believed that the dead held power over the living, and this connection shaped their world, from the grand tombs of kings to the humble prayers of farmers. Every act, every sacrifice, was a thread tying the present to the past. The Shang were also warriors, their chariots rumbling across the plains, drawn by horses adorned with bronze bells that jingled like distant thunder. Their armies, armed with bronze-tipped spears, expanded the kingdom's reach, subduing neighboring tribes and securing the fertile lands along the Yellow River. But power came at a cost. Imagine a battlefield at dusk, the ground stained with the sacrifices of war, where captives were sometimes offered to appease the gods. The Shang's devotion to their rituals was unwavering, yet it carried a shadow of cruelty, a reminder of a world where survival demanded both strength and piety. Beyond the clang of bronze and the smoke of sacrifice, the Shang laid the foundations of Chinese culture. Their writing, born on oracle bones, was a script of elegance and precision, its characters capturing the essence of the world: mountains, rivers, hands, hearts. Each stroke was a brush with eternity, a way to record not just prophecies but taxes, harvests, and royal decrees. Imagine a scribe, hunched over a bamboo strip, his brush dancing across the surface, preserving the king's words for generations yet unborn. This was the dawn of a literary tradition that would one day produce poetry and philosophy to rival the stars. The Shang's world was one of balance, between the earthly and the divine, the living and the dead, the ruler and the ruled. Their cities were planned with cosmic precision, aligned with the cardinal directions to mirror the order of the heavens. Temples and palaces stood as testaments to their ambition, while villages of thatched roofs huddled nearby, their inhabitants bound by loyalty to the king and the land. Picture a farmer pausing in his field, gazing at the distant city, wondering about the mysteries unfolding within its walls. The Shang's society was hierarchical, yet it was united by a shared reverence for the forces that shaped their world. Yet, even as the Shang flourished, cracks began to form, not in their oracle bones, but in their kingdom. Rival tribes grew bolder, and whispers of discontent stirred among the people. Imagine a diviner, staring at a fractured shell, his heart heavy with a prophecy of change. The Shang's rituals, once a source of strength, could not hold back the tides of time. Their bronze weapons and sacred writings had built a mighty kingdom, but the world was shifting, and a new power was rising on the horizon, one that would redefine what it meant to rule China. As the moonlight fades and the night grows still, we stand at the edge of this ancient dynasty's twilight. What happens when the mandate of heaven, the divine right to rule, is questioned? The answer lies in the next chapter, where a new dynasty emerges, carrying with it ideas that would shape the soul of China for centuries to come. As the night deepens, imagine yourself standing on a hill overlooking a vast plain, where the fires of the Shang dynasty's cities flicker like fading stars. The air is heavy with the scent of earth and the distant rumble of change. Around 1046 BCE, the Shang's reign crumbles, and a new power rises. The Zhou dynasty, a kingdom that would stretch across centuries and sow the seeds of ideas that still resonate in the heart of China. Picture a world where the heavens themselves seem to speak, granting or withdrawing their favor from those who rule. This is the era of the Zhou, a time when the concept of the mandate of heaven took root, shaping not just a dynasty but the very soul of Chinese governance. As we drift through this chapter, let the story unfold like a scroll, revealing a land of warriors, philosophers, and dreamers. The Zhou began with a rebellion, led by King Wu, a warrior whose heart burned with the conviction that the Shang had lost their divine right to rule. Imagine him riding into battle, his banners fluttering under a stormy sky, his soldiers chanting as they marched to overthrow a kingdom grown decadent. The Battle of Mai, shrouded in the mists of history, saw the Shang's bronze-clad armies falter, their oracle bones unable to predict their doom. King Wu's victory was not just military, it was a proclamation that heaven itself had chosen a new ruler. The mandate of heaven, this revolutionary idea, declared that rulers held power only as long as they governed justly. If they faltered, heaven could withdraw its favor, passing the mandate to another. Picture a village elder, his voice low as he tells this tale to wide-eyed children, the firelight casting shadows that dance like the will of the gods. The Zhou's early years, known as the Western Zhou, were a time of consolidation and expansion. Their capital at Haojing, near modern Xi'an, was a marvel of order, its palaces and temples aligned with the stars to reflect cosmic harmony. Imagine walking its streets, where nobles in flowing robes debated policy, while farmers beyond the walls tilled fields granted by the king. The Zhou introduced a feudal system, parceling out land to loyal vassals who swore allegiance in grand ceremonies. Picture a lord kneeling before the king, his hands clasped around a jade tablet, pledging to defend the realm. This system bound the kingdom together, yet it planted seeds of division. As local lords grew powerful, their loyalties tested by time and ambition. As the centuries passed, the Zhou's world blossomed into a golden age of thought. The period known as the Spring and Autumn Era saw the rise of the 100 schools of thought, a flowering of philosophy that would define Chinese culture. Imagine a quiet grove, where Confucius, a young scholar with piercing eyes, speaks to his disciples about virtue and harmony. His teachings, rooted in respect for tradition and the pursuit of moral order, offered a blueprint for a just society. Nearby, in a bamboo hut, Laozi, the sage of Taoism, muses on the flow of the universe, urging simplicity and alignment with nature's rhythms. Picture his words drifting like leaves on a stream, carried to listeners who sought peace in a turbulent world. These philosophies, alongside others like legalism and Moism, were not abstract debates but living ideas, shaping how people lived, ruled, and dreamed. Yet, beneath this intellectual brilliance, the Zhou's unity began to fray. The feudal lords, once loyal, grew restless, their domains becoming small kingdoms of their own. Imagine a banquet hall, where whispers of rebellion mingle with the clink of wine cups, as lords plot against a weakening king. By the 8th century BCE, the Western Zhou fell to invaders, and the capital moved east to Luoyang, marking the Eastern Zhou period. This was a time of fragmentation, where the king's authority dwindled to a ceremonial shadow, and regional powers vied for dominance. Picture a farmer, pausing in his field, watching a distant army march past, uncertain whose banner they carry. The land was still fertile, the rituals still sacred, but the harmony of the early Zhou was slipping away. The Zhou's legacy, though, was not in their political might but in their ideas. The mandate of heaven gave rulers a divine responsibility, but it also empowered the people, suggesting that unjust rule could be challenged. Confucianism and Taoism offered paths to navigate life's complexities, their wisdom like lanterns in the dark. Imagine a scholar, his brush poised over bamboo strips, recording these ideas for posterity, knowing they would outlast the dynasty itself. The Zhou's feudal system, while flawed, laid the groundwork for a society that valued loyalty and hierarchy, even as it sowed the seeds of conflict. As we linger in this fading light, the Zhou's world feels both distant and familiar, a time when ideas were born that still guide us, yet a time when unity was slipping through the fingers of kings. The land is stirring, the banners of rival states rising on the horizon. What happens when these fragments of a once great kingdom turn against each other, their swords gleaming with ambition? The answer lies in the chaos and brilliance of the next chapter, where war and strategy reshape the fate of China. As the night wraps around us like a silken cloak, picture a land fractured yet alive with the pulse of ambition. The year is around 475 BCE, and the Zhou dynasty's once mighty realm has splintered into a mosaic of rival states, each vying for supremacy. This is the Warring States period, a time of chaos and brilliance, where the clash of swords and the strategies of sages forged the path to China's first true empire. Imagine standing on a windswept hill, the horizon dotted with the banners of 7 powerful states: Qin, Chu, Zhou, Wei, Han, Yan, and Qi, each a kingdom unto itself, their cities glowing like embers in the twilight. The air hums with the tension of war, but also with the quiet wisdom of those who dreamed of a united land. Let us wander through this turbulent era, where bloodshed and brilliance wove the tapestry of China's future. The Warring States period was a crucible, testing the resilience of a civilization born along the Yellow River. Picture a bustling city in the state of Qi, its markets alive with the chatter of merchants trading silk and jade, while nearby, blacksmiths forge iron weapons that gleam with a new, deadly sharpness. The Zhou king, now a mere figurehead in Luoyang, watches helplessly as these states grow in power, their armies swelling with conscripts and chariots. Warfare had changed since the days of the Shang. Iron swords replaced bronze, and crossbows sent bolts whistling through the air. Imagine a battlefield at dawn, the ground trembling under the hooves of cavalry, as generals shout orders drawn from a new kind of wisdom, strategies that would echo through the ages. Among these strategists was Sun Tzu, whose art of war became a beacon in the chaos. Picture him, a solitary figure in a bamboo grove, his mind sharp as the blade he studies, penning words that would guide generals and philosophers alike. All warfare is based on deception. His teachings were not just for battle but for life, urging leaders to know their enemies, their terrain, and themselves. In the state of Wei, generals pored over his scrolls, plotting maneuvers to outwit their rivals. Imagine a war council at midnight, maps spread across a table, as candles cast flickering shadows on faces tense with calculation. Sun Tzu's wisdom gave the states an edge, but it also deepened their rivalries, each seeking to master the art of victory. Yet, amidst the clatter of war, the Warring States was a time of innovation and culture. In the state of Chu, poets wove verses that captured the fleeting beauty of life, their words like petals falling on a quiet stream. Imagine a scholar in a lantern-lit pavilion, reciting lines that mourn the transience of glory, his voice soft yet piercing. The states competed not just in battle but in ideas, building schools where philosophers debated the path to a just society. Legalist thinkers like Shang in Qin advocated strict laws and discipline, shaping a state that grew lean and formidable. Picture a Qin official, his robes stark and unadorned, inspecting ranks of soldiers trained with ruthless precision. Meanwhile, Confucian scholars in other states urged rulers to govern with benevolence, their voices a counterpoint to the drumbeat of war. The land itself bore the scars of this era. Fortresses rose along borders, their walls of rammed earth standing defiant against invaders. Imagine a sentry atop a watchtower, his eyes scanning the horizon for the dust of an approaching army. Farmers, caught between loyalty to their lords and the demands of survival, toiled to feed growing cities, their lives tethered to the rhythms of war and harvest. Yet, even in this fractured world, trade flourished along ancient routes, carrying silk and ideas to distant lands. Picture a caravan winding through mountain passes, its camels laden with goods, linking the states in a web of commerce that hinted at a greater unity. The state of Qin, rising in the west, began to cast a long shadow. Under rulers like Duke Xiao and advisors like Shang, Qin transformed into a machine of efficiency, its laws harsh but effective, its army a relentless force. Imagine a Qin soldier, his armor glinting in the sun, marching in perfect formation, driven by a vision of a land united under one ruler. Other states, like Chu with its vibrant culture or Zhou with its skilled cavalry, resisted, their alliances shifting like sand. Picture a diplomatic envoy, cloaked in secrecy, slipping through enemy lines to forge a fragile pact. The balance of power tilted and swayed, each state dreaming of dominance, yet none could foresee the storm gathering in Qin's heart. As the Warring States period wore on, the people grew weary of endless conflict. Imagine a mother in a village, her hands rough from weaving, whispering prayers for peace as she watches her son march off to war. The philosophers' debates, once abstract, took on urgency. Could a single ruler bring order to this chaos? The idea of unity, once a distant dream, began to take root, fueled by the exhaustion of division. The mandate of heaven, born in the Zhou, now hung in the balance, waiting for a leader to claim it. As the stars burn brighter in the night sky, we stand at the edge of a turning point. The warring states have forged a land of iron and ideas, but the cost has been great. What happens when one state rises above the rest, its ambition forging a new China from the ashes of war? The answer lies just beyond the horizon, where a single man's vision will reshape the destiny of a nation. As the night cloaks the world in quiet darkness, imagine standing on the edge of a vast plain, where the dust of 1,000 battles settles into silence. The year is 221 BCE, and the chaos of the warring states has given way to a new force. A single, unyielding vision that binds a fractured land. This is the dawn of the Qing Dynasty, a fleeting yet transformative era led by a man whose name echoes through time, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. Picture a figure cloaked in black robes, his eyes burning with ambition, standing atop a hill as his banners flutter over a unified China. The rivers and mountains, once divided by rival kings, now bow to one ruler. Let us step into this pivotal chapter, where the seeds of a nation were sown with iron and dreams, and where a legacy both grand and haunting was carved into the earth. The rise of Qin Shi Huang, born in Zheng, was no accident. The state of Qin, hardened by legalist reforms, had become a machine of war and order. Imagine the young king, barely in his teens, ascending the throne in 246 BCE, his mind shaped by advisors like Li Si, who preached discipline and control. The Qin's armies, disciplined and relentless, swept through the rival states like a storm. Picture a battlefield at dusk, the air thick with the clash of iron and the cries of soldiers, as Qin's forces overwhelmed the last holdouts of Chu and Qi. By 221 BCE, the warring states were no more, and Zheng proclaimed himself Qin Shi Huang, first emperor of a united China. The title carried the weight of divinity, as if he were not just a man but a force ordained by heaven itself. Unity demanded more than conquest, it required transformation. Qin Shi Huang set about forging a single nation from disparate pieces. Imagine scribes and officials, their brushes flying across bamboo strips, standardizing weights, measures, and even the width of cart axles to bind the empire's roads. The Chinese script, once varied across states, was unified, its characters etched with a precision that mirrored the emperor's will. Picture merchants in bustling markets, trading with coins stamped with Qin's seal, their voices mingling in dialects now linked by a shared written word. The emperor's decrees reached every corner of the realm, carried by couriers on roads that stretched like veins across the land. Yet, Qin Shi Huang's vision was not only practical but monumental. The Great Wall, a project born in this era, began as a joining of older fortifications to shield the empire from northern nomads. Imagine workers toiling under a blazing sun, hauling stones to build a barrier that snaked across mountains, its silhouette a testament to human will. The emperor's obsession with immortality drove another marvel, his tomb at Lintong, guarded by an army of terracotta warriors. Picture artisans in vast workshops, sculpting thousands of clay soldiers, each face unique, their silent ranks waiting to serve their emperor in the afterlife. These figures, hidden for centuries, speak of a ruler who sought to conquer not just the world but death itself. But unity came at a cost. The emperor's legalist policies were harsh, demanding absolute obedience. Imagine a scholar, his hands trembling as he buries his precious scrolls, fearing the emperor's edict to burn books that challenged his rule. Dissenters faced brutal punishment, and laborers groaned under the weight of forced projects, their lives spent on walls and canals. Picture a farmer, conscripted from his fields, whispering of the emperor's tyranny as he lays another stone. Qin Shi Huang's dream of order required control, and his methods left scars on the land and its people. Yet, even in their resentment, many saw the strength of a united China, a nation no longer torn by rival banners. The emperor's life was a paradox, his achievements vast, his fears human. Obsessed with immortality, he sought elixirs from alchemists, traveling to sacred mountains under starlit skies, his heart heavy with the knowledge that time spares no one. Imagine him standing alone, gazing at the sea, pondering the mysteries of life as his empire hummed with activity. His death in 210 BCE, during one such journey, marked the beginning of the end. The Qing dynasty, built on his singular will, faltered under weak successors. Picture a court in chaos, officials plotting as rebellion stirred in the countryside, the mandate of heaven slipping from Qin's grasp. The Qin's legacy is a tapestry of triumph and tragedy. They gave China its name, its unity, and its first taste of empire, but their harshness sowed the seeds of their downfall. Imagine a villager, standing amidst the ruins of a Qin watchtower, wondering what comes next for a land so vast yet so fragile. The Great Wall and terracotta warriors endure as monuments to ambition, but they also whisper of the human cost behind them. As the night grows still, we stand at the edge of Qin's fleeting reign, the empire poised for a new chapter, one that would carry China into a golden age. What happens when a new dynasty rises, not with iron but with culture, trade, and a vision that reaches beyond the horizon? The answer lies in the next chapter, where the Han dynasty weaves a new thread into China's eternal story. As the night wraps us in its gentle embrace, imagine standing on a bustling road where the dust swirls with the footsteps of merchants, their voices a tapestry of languages from distant lands. The year is 206 BCE, and the Qin dynasty's iron grip has crumbled, giving way to a new era, the Han dynasty, a golden age that would weave China into the fabric of the world. Picture a land where the yellow river sparkles under a rising sun, its waters nourishing fields that feed a growing empire. The Han were not just rulers, they were builders of a civilization that pulsed with culture, trade, and ideas, their legacy stretching far beyond their borders. Let us wander through this vibrant chapter, where the Silk Road opened pathways to distant horizons, and China's heart beat with a rhythm of innovation and harmony. The Han dynasty rose from the ashes of Qin's collapse, led by Liu Bang, a man of humble origins who became Emperor Gaozu. Imagine him, a former peasant with weathered hands, standing before a cheering crowd, his eyes alight with the dream of a stable empire. Unlike the harsh legalism of the Qin, the Han embraced a blend of Confucianism and pragmatism, seeking to rule with benevolence. Picture a village school, where children recite Confucian texts under a teacher's watchful eye, learning virtues of loyalty and respect that would bind society together. The Han's early years were a time of rebuilding, as fields lay fallow from war and families mourned their losses. Yet, under Liu Bang's steady hand, the empire began to heal, its people returning to their plows and looms with hope. The Han's greatest legacy was the Silk Road, a network of trade routes that stretched from China's heart to the edges of the known world. Imagine a caravan winding through desert oases, camels laden with silk rolls that shimmer like liquid moonlight. Merchants from Chang'an, the Han capital, traded not just goods but ideas, carrying Buddhism from India and stories of Rome's distant legions. Picture a marketplace in Chang'an, alive with the scents of spices and the chatter of traders. Persians, Sogdians, and Chinese, each exchanging treasures under the watchful gaze of Han officials. The Silk Road was more than a path, it was a bridge, linking cultures and fostering a global exchange that shaped civilizations. The Han were innovators, their minds as fertile as the fields they tilled. Imagine a scholar in a lanternlit study, sketching designs for a seismograph that could detect earthquakes far away, its bronze dragons trembling with the earth's whispers. The invention of paper, born in this era, revolutionized knowledge, allowing scribes to record histories and poetry on lightweight sheets. Picture a library in Chang'an, its shelves stacked with bamboo scrolls giving way to paper, preserving the wisdom of Confucius and the tales of heroes. The Han also perfected the compass, a simple lodestone that guided traders across deserts, and advanced metallurgy, crafting steel that gleamed in the hands of soldiers. These innovations were not mere tools but sparks that lit the way for future generations. Life under the Han was a blend of order and vibrancy. The capital, Chang'an, was a marvel, its streets laid out like a chessboard, bustling with artisans, officials, and poets. Imagine walking through its gates, past palaces with upturned eaves and markets where silk dresses swirled in the breeze. The Han's bureaucracy, built on Confucian merit, drew scholars from across the empire, their exams testing knowledge of classic texts. Picture a young man, his ink-stained fingers trembling as he writes answers that could elevate his family's status. This system, though imperfect, created a society where talent could rise, binding the empire with shared ideals rather than fear. Yet, the Han faced challenges. Nomadic Xiongnu tribes from the north tested the empire's borders, their horsemen sweeping across the steppes like a storm. Imagine a Han general, his armor glinting in the dawn, leading troops to fortify the Great Wall, now strengthened with watchtowers and garrisons. Diplomacy, too, played a role. Emperor Wu sent envoys like Zhang Qian to distant lands, forging alliances that brought wealth and knowledge. Picture Zhang Qian, weary from years of travel, returning with tales of lands where grapes grew and horses ran swift as the wind, his stories igniting the emperor's ambition. The Han's culture flourished, with poets like Sima Xiangru weaving verses that captured the beauty of the natural world. Imagine a banquet in a noble's hall, where a poet recites lines about mountains and rivers, his words drawing sighs from silk-clad guests. Artisans crafted jade carvings and lacquered bowls, their work a testament to a society that valued beauty as much as strength. Yet, beneath this splendor, cracks began to form. Corruption crept into the bureaucracy, and land reforms failed to ease the burdens of farmers. Picture a peasant, his back bent under a heavy load, whispering of unrest as taxes grew heavier. As the Han Dynasty stretched into its 4th century, its light began to flicker. Imagine a scholar, gazing at the stars from a quiet courtyard, sensing the empire's fragility. The Silk Road had brought wealth, but also new ideas that challenged old ways. The mandate of heaven, once a source of strength, now hung in the balance, as factions vied for power. As we linger in this golden age, the night feels both warm and fleeting, the Han's achievements a beacon against the gathering shadows. What happens when this mighty empire fractures, its unity giving way to tales of heroes and division? The answer lies in the next chapter, where the land of China faces a time of turmoil and timeless romance. As the night deepens, casting shadows that dance like memories, imagine standing on a misty riverbank, the echoes of a fading empire carried on the breeze. The year is 220 CE, and the Han Dynasty, once a beacon of unity, has fractured into a land of rival banners and heroic tales. This is the era of the Three Kingdoms, a time of division, betrayal, and legend, followed by the radiant resurgence of the Tang Dynasty, a golden age of poetry and power. Picture a landscape where warlords clash under stormy skies, yet poets find beauty in the fleeting moments of peace. Let us wander through this chapter of turmoil and triumph, where China's spirit endures, weaving stories that linger like starlight in the hearts of its people. The fall of the Han left a void, filled by 3 rival states, Wei, Shu, and Wu, each claiming the mandate of heaven. Imagine a battlefield in Wei, where Cao Cao, a cunning warlord, surveys his troops, his mind sharp with strategies drawn from Sun Tzu. His ambition to unify China burns bright, yet he faces Liu Bei of Shu, a leader whose loyalty to the Han legacy inspires fierce devotion. Picture Liu Bei, his face weathered by hardship, rallying his men with tales of honor in a bamboo grove. In Wu, Sun Quan rules the lush south, his navy gliding along the Yangtze River, their ships like dragons on the water. The Three Kingdoms were not just states but stories, immortalized in the epic romance of the Three Kingdoms, where heroes like Zhuge Liang, the master strategist, wove plans as intricate as silk. Life in this divided land was both brutal and vibrant. Imagine a village caught between armies, its people hiding grain from foraging soldiers, yet gathering at night to hear storytellers recount tales of Guan Yu, whose loyalty became legend. Battles like Red Cliffs, where fire ships blazed across the Yangtze, were not just clashes of arms but moments that shaped a nation's imagination. Picture the river at night, flames reflecting on the water, as Wu's navy outwits Wei's larger force, a victory born of cunning over might. Yet, the constant warfare drained the land, leaving fields untended and families torn apart. A mother, clutching her child, might gaze at the horizon, praying for peace in a world that seemed to know only swords.
The Three Kingdoms eventually gave way to the Qin Dynasty in 280 CE, a brief unification that crumbled under internal strife. Imagine a Qin emperor, his throne unsteady, watching as nomadic tribes from the north pressed against the borders. The following centuries, known as the Northern and Southern dynasties, were a kaleidoscope of fleeting kingdoms, each struggling to claim China's legacy. Picture a Buddhist monk, his robes swaying as he carves a statue into a cliff face at Dunhuang, his faith a beacon in a fractured land. Buddhism, spreading along the Silk Road, took root, offering solace to a people weary of war. Temples rose like lotus flowers, their incense mingling with the prayers of those seeking meaning in chaos. Then, in 618 CE, the Tang dynasty emerged, a radiant dawn after centuries of shadow. Founded by Li Yuan, the Tang restored order with a blend of military might and cultural splendor. Imagine Chang'an, the Tang capital, its streets a mosaic of cultures, Persian traders, Indian monks, and Chinese poets mingling in markets scented with saffron and jasmine. The Tang embraced the Silk Road, their empire stretching from the deserts of Central Asia to the shores of the Pacific. Picture a caravan arriving at Chang'an's gates, its camels bearing treasures that spark wonder in the eyes of onlookers. The Tang's openness made them a global hub, their wealth and culture a magnet for the world. The Tang was a golden age of art and poetry, its spirit captured in the verses of Li Bai and Du Fu. Imagine Li Bai, his brush dancing across paper, crafting lines about moonlight and wine that still echo today. Picture a Tang noblewoman, her silk dress shimmering, reciting poetry at a moonlit banquet, her words weaving dreams into the night. The Tang court fostered talent, with women like Empress Wu Zetian rising to power, her rule both ruthless and visionary. Imagine her, seated on a throne of jade, her gaze piercing as she reforms the bureaucracy, proving a woman could wield the mandate of heaven. The Tang's merit-based exams drew scholars from across the empire, their ink-stained hands shaping a government rooted in Confucian ideals. Yet, the Tang's brilliance was not without flaws. The Lushan rebellion in 755 CE shook the empire, its cities ravaged by a rogue general's ambition. Picture Chang'an streets, once vibrant, now silent save for the cries of refugees fleeing the chaos. Though the Tang recovered, the rebellion weakened their grip, and regional warlords began to rise. Imagine a governor, his loyalty wavering, plotting in a candlelit hall as the empire's heart faltered. The Tang's openness, once a strength, invited challenges from nomadic tribes and internal factions, their unity fraying like a worn tapestry. As we linger in this era, the Tang's light feels both eternal and fragile, a beacon of culture amidst the tides of change. Picture a poet, gazing at the stars from a Chang'an rooftop, his heart heavy with the beauty and impermanence of life. The Tang's legacy, its poetry, its trade, its dreams, would endure, but the empire itself stood on the edge of a new chapter, where innovation and invasion would collide. What happens when a new dynasty rises? Its ingenuity matched by the shadow of conquest from beyond the steppes. The answer lies in the next chapter, where where the Song and Yuan reshaped China's destiny with brilliance and turmoil. As the night unfolds its velvet curtain, imagine standing on a bridge over a tranquil river, its surface reflecting the glow of lanterns from a bustling Song Dynasty city. The year is 960 CE, and the Tang's radiant legacy has faded, giving way to the Song Dynasty, a time of unparalleled ingenuity, where the spark of human creativity illuminated China's soul. Yet, this era of brilliance would soon face the thunder of invasion, as the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty reshaped the land with a blend of conquest and fusion. Picture a world where scholars pen poetry under starlit skies, while hoofbeats echo from the steppes, heralding a new order. Let us drift through this chapter, where innovation and invasion dance in a delicate balance, weaving a story of resilience and transformation. The Song dynasty emerged from the chaos of the Five Dynasties period, a time of fleeting kingdoms that followed the Tang's collapse. Founded by Zhou Quanjian, a general who became Emperor Tezu, the Song restored stability with a focus on culture and intellect. Imagine the capital, Kaifeng, its streets alive with the hum of markets and the chatter of scholars, their robes brushing past stalls selling printed books, a Song innovation that spread knowledge like wildfire. The invention of movable type printing, born in this era, revolutionized learning, allowing texts to flow from workshops to villages. Picture a printer, his hands stained with ink, arranging wooden blocks to produce Confucian classics, making wisdom accessible to all who could read. The Song were masters of invention, their minds as fertile as the rice paddies that fed their growing cities. Imagine a workshop where artisans craft compasses, their needles pointing north to guide ships across distant seas. Gunpowder, once a curiosity, became a tool of war, with Song engineers designing bombs that roared like dragons. Picture a scientist in a quiet courtyard, observing the stars through an astronomical clock, its gears ticking in harmony with the cosmos. The Song's economy thrived, with paper money easing trade and tea houses buzzing with merchants discussing deals over steaming cups. Imagine a tea house in Hangzhou, its air fragrant with jasmine, where poets and traders alike share stories of distant lands along the Silk Road. Culturally, the Song were a beacon. Landscape paintings captured the soul of mountains and rivers, their brushstrokes evoking a world where nature and humanity intertwined. Picture a painter, his eyes tracing the mist-shrouded peaks, translating their serenity onto silk. Neo-Confucianism flourished, blending old wisdom with new ideas, as philosophers like Zhou Zai debated the nature of existence in academies lit by flickering lanterns. Imagine a scholar, his voice soft yet firm, teaching students to seek harmony in a turbulent world. The Song cities like Hangzhou were marvels of urban planning, with canals and bridges that rivaled Venice, their beauty inspiring poets to sing of life's fleeting joys. Yet the Song's brilliance was shadowed by vulnerability. Their military, weakened by a focus on civil governance, struggled against northern nomads like the Khitan and Jurchen. Imagine a Song general, his heart heavy, watching as the Jurchen Jin dynasty seizes the north, forcing the Song to retreat to Hangzhou in the southern Song period. Picture a refugee family, their belongings bundled on a cart, fleeing south as Kaifeng burns behind them. The Song's wealth and culture made them a target, their borders shrinking under the pressure of invaders. Yet, even in retreat, they thrived, their southern capital a jewel of commerce and art, its markets vibrant with silk and porcelain. The Song's delicate balance was shattered in the 13th century by the Mongols, a force like a storm across the steppes. Led by Genghis Khan and later Kublai Khan, the Mongols swept through China, their horsemen unstoppable. Imagine a Song city under siege, its walls trembling as Mongol catapults hurl stones, the air thick with the cries of defenders. By 1279, the Song fell, and Kublai Khan established the Yuan dynasty, the first foreign rule over all of China. Picture Kublai, seated in his grand palace in Dadu, modern Beijing, blending Mongol might with Chinese governance. His court a mix of nomad warriors and Confucian scholars. The Yuan brought a new perspective, opening China to the world along the revitalized Silk Road. Imagine Marco Polo, the Venetian traveler, marveling at the splendor of Dadu, his tales of China's wealth spreading to Europe. The Yuan adopted Chinese bureaucracy but favored foreigners for key roles, creating a cosmopolitan empire. Picture a Persian merchant, his voice mingling with Chinese in a bustling market, trading goods from Samarkand to Hangzhou. Yet the Yuan's rule was uneasy, with ethnic Chinese often marginalized, their resentment simmering. Imagine a farmer, his taxes heavy, whispering of rebellion as he toils under Mongol overseers. The Yuan's cultural contributions were profound, with drama and storytelling flourishing. Picture a theater in Dadu, where actors perform tales of love and loss, their voices carrying to a rapt audience. Yet, corruption and natural disasters weakened the dynasty, eroding the mandate of heaven. Imagine a monk, his prayers rising with the smoke of incense, sensing the empire's fragility as floods devastate the land. The Yuan's blend of Mongol and Chinese traditions enriched China, but their rule sowed seeds of unrest, as the people yearned for a return to native governance. As the night grows still, we stand at the edge of the Yuan's reign, a time of fusion and friction. The innovations of the Song and the conquests of the Yuan have left China transformed, yet restless. What happens when a new dynasty rises? Its ambition to restore Chinese rule matched by a vision of global exploration. The answer lies in the next chapter, where the Ming dynasty builds a forbidden city and reaches for the seas. As the night wraps us in its tranquil embrace, imagine standing before a vast palace, its crimson walls glowing under a canopy of stars. The year is 1368 CE, and the Mongol Yuan dynasty has crumbled, giving way to the Ming dynasty, a radiant era of cultural revival and bold exploration. Picture a land where artisans craft porcelain as delicate as moonlight, and ships sail to distant shores, carrying China's splendor to the world. The Ming were not just rulers, they were architects of a resurgent China, their legacy etched in the stones of the Forbidden City and the waves of uncharted seas. Let us wander through this chapter, where tradition and ambition weave a tapestry of grandeur, pulling us into a world of emperors, explorers, and dreams that reached beyond the horizon. The Ming dynasty rose from the ashes of Yuan rule, led by Zhou Yuanzhang, a former monk and rebel who became the Hongwu emperor. Imagine him, his face hardened by years of struggle, standing on a hill as his armies drive out the Mongols, reclaiming China for its people. His vision was to restore Han Chinese culture, rooted in Confucian ideals of order and harmony. Picture a village rebuilt after years of war, its people gathering under a temple's upturned eaves, offering thanks for peace. The Hongwu emperor's reforms were sweeping, land was redistributed to farmers, and a strict bureaucracy ensured loyalty to the throne. Yet, his rule was stern, his distrust of officials leading to purges that cast a shadow over his reign. Imagine a scholar, his heart racing, hiding forbidden texts as imperial spies patrol the streets. The Ming capital, first at Nanjing and later Beijing, became a symbol of imperial might. The Forbidden City, built under Emperor Yongle, was a marvel of architecture, its golden roofs gleaming like a celestial court. Picture walking through its gates, past courtyards where dragons coil on marble pillars, each hall a testament to the emperor's divine mandate. The Forbidden City was more than a palace. It was the heart of the empire, where officials in silk robes debated policy and eunuchs whispered intrigues. Imagine an emperor, seated on the dragon throne, his gaze piercing as he issues decrees that ripple across a vast realm. The city's walls, forbidden to commoners, held a world of ceremony and power, its beauty a reflection of China's restored pride. The Ming were explorers, their ambitions stretching far beyond their borders. Under Emperor Yongle, the Admiral Zheng He led treasure fleets to distant lands, India, Arabia, and East Africa. Picture his massive ships, their sails like clouds, gliding across the Indian Ocean, laden with silk and porcelain to trade for spices and gems. Imagine a foreign port, where locals gape at the sight of Chinese junks, their decks bustling with diplomats bearing gifts from the Son of Heaven. Zheng He's voyages, 7 in all, showcased China's wealth and power, forging ties with distant kingdoms. Yet, after his final journey, the Ming turned inward, their ships dismantled, as if the sea itself had lost its allure. Picture a sailor, standing on a quiet dock, gazing at the horizon, wondering why the empire retreated from the world. Culturally, the Ming were a renaissance. Porcelain from Jingdezhen, with its blue and white patterns, became a global treasure, coveted from Kyoto to Cairo. Imagine an artisan, his hands steady as he paints a vase, each stroke capturing the elegance of a lotus bloom. Literature flourished, with novels like Journey to the West weaving tales of adventure and spirituality. Picture a storyteller in a tea house, his voice rising and falling, enchanting listeners with the exploits of the Monkey King. Ming painters captured the soul of landscapes, their scrolls unfurling scenes of misty mountains and tranquil rivers. Imagine a scholar, unrolling a painting in a quiet study, losing himself in its serene beauty, a moment of peace in a world of imperial demands. The Ming's economy thrived, with trade flowing along revitalized Silk Road routes and canals linking the empire's heart to its edges. Picture a barge gliding through facilitator. Along the Grand Canal, its cargo of rice and silk a lifeline for bustling cities like Suzhou. Yet, prosperity brought challenges. Corruption grew, and the gap between rich and poor widened. Imagine a farmer, his back bent under a heavy load, grumbling about taxes as he passes a wealthy merchant's mansion. The Ming's military, tasked with guarding the Great Wall against Mongol incursions, strained under the cost of defense. Picture a soldier, shivering on a northern watchtower, scanning the steps for signs of raiders, his loyalty tested by long winters and meager pay. As the Ming dynasty aged, cracks appeared in its foundation. Emperor Wanli's neglect of governance left officials divided, and natural disasters fueled unrest. Imagine a village swept away by floods, its people whispering of a faltering mandate of heaven. The court, isolated in the Forbidden City, grew distant from the people's struggles, its intrigues consuming its energy. Picture a courtier, his voice hushed, plotting against rivals in a candlelit hall, unaware of the gathering storm beyond the palace walls. The Ming's cultural brilliance and global reach were undeniable, but their inward turn and internal strife left them vulnerable. As the night grows still, we stand before the Forbidden City's gates, its golden glow fading under the weight of time. The Ming's legacy, its art, its architecture, its dreams, shines bright, yet the empire teeters on the edge of collapse. What happens when a new power rises, its roots in the rugged north, to challenge China's ancient traditions? The answer lies in the next chapter, where the Qing dynasty ushers in an era of expansion and upheaval, carrying China into a modern dawn. As the night settles into its deepest hush, imagine standing on the Great Wall, its ancient stones cool beneath your feet, stretching into the darkness like a silent guardian. The year is 1644 CE, and the Ming dynasty's golden light has faded, giving way to the Qing dynasty, China's final imperial chapter. Picture a land where Manchu horsemen sweep from the north, their banners bold against the horizon, forging an empire that would span vast territories and collide with the modern world. The Qing were not just rulers. They were a bridge between tradition and transformation, their reign a tapestry of triumphs, tensions, and the seeds of a new China. Let us wander through this final chapter, where the echoes of emperors mingle with the stirrings of a nation on the cusp of modernity. The Qing dynasty rose from the ashes of Ming decline, led by the Manchu, a nomadic people from the northeast. Imagine Narhasai, a fierce chieftain uniting tribes under a single banner, his vision of conquest burning like a flame. By 1644, his successors seized Beijing, capitalizing on Ming corruption and peasant rebellions. Picture a Manchu warrior, his armor gleaming, riding through the Forbidden City's gates as the last Ming emperor hangs himself in despair. The Qing, under Emperor Shunzai, blended Manchu strength with Chinese governance, adopting Confucian rituals to win the loyalty of their subjects. Imagine a Chinese scholar, bowing reluctantly to a Manchu official, his heart torn between tradition and the new order. The Qing's early years were a time of expansion, their empire stretching from Tibet to Mongolia, making it one of the largest in history. Picture a caravan winding through the Himalayas, carrying tribute to Beijing, where the Qianlong emperor presides over a court of unparalleled splendor. The Forbidden City, now the Qing's heart, buzzed with envoys from distant lands, their gifts of jade and furs piling high. The Qing preserved Chinese culture, sponsoring art and literature while enforcing Manchu customs, like the Q hairstyle, a symbol of submission. Imagine a village barber, his hands trembling as he shaves a man's forehead, whispering of resistance under his breath. Economically, the Qing thrived, with agriculture and trade fueling prosperity. Picture the Grand Canal, its waters alive with barges carrying rice and silk to feed and clothe a growing population. Cities like Shanghai and Guangzhou blossomed, their markets teeming with merchants trading tea and porcelain for European silver. Imagine a tea merchant in Guangzhou, his scales clinking as he weighs leaves destined for London, unaware of the global forces gathering. The Qing's wealth was vast, but their isolationist policies limited trade, sowing seeds of tension with the West. Picture a British envoy, his ship anchored off the coast, frustrated by Qing restrictions, his mind plotting new ways to open China's doors. Culturally, the Qing were a golden age of scholarship. The Kangxi Emperor, a patron of learning, commissioned vast encyclopedias, preserving centuries of knowledge. Imagine a library in Beijing, its shelves groaning with texts where scholars labor by lamplight to record China's history. Poetry and painting flourished, capturing the beauty of misty landscapes and bustling cities. Picture a painter, his brush tracing the curve of a willow, his work a quiet rebellion against the Manchus' foreign rule. Yet, the Qing's cultural achievements masked growing unrest. As ethnic Han Chinese chafed under Manchu dominance, their whispers of rebellion growing louder. The 19th century brought challenges that tested the Qing's resilience. The Opium Wars, sparked by Britain's trade demands, exposed China's military weaknesses. Imagine a Qing soldier, his musket outdated, facing British cannons at Guangzhou, his heart sinking as foreign ships dominate the coast. The Treaty of Nanjing in 1842 forced open ports and ceded Hong Kong, a humiliation that shook the mandate of heaven. Picture a Qing official, his robes tattered, signing the treaty under duress, his eyes burning with shame. Internal rebellions, like the Taiping Uprising, further strained the empire, claiming millions of lives. Imagine a village in chaos, its people fleeing as Taiping rebels preach a new faith, blending Christianity and Chinese ideals. The Qing struggled to modernize, with reforms like the self-strengthening movement attempting to blend Western technology with Chinese tradition. Picture a young scholar studying steam engines in a new academy, dreaming of a stronger China. Yet, corruption and resistance slowed progress, and the Empress Dowager Cixi, a polarizing figure, wielded power from behind the throne. Imagine her, veiled in silk, navigating court intrigues while diverting funds to rebuild the Summer Palace, its beauty a fleeting distraction from decline. The Boxer Rebellion, a desperate stand against foreign influence, ended in defeat, further weakening the Qing. Picture a boxer fighter, his fists raised in defiance, falling before foreign troops in Beijing. By the early 20th century, the Qing's grip faltered. The 1911 revolution, led by Sun Yat-sen, toppled the dynasty, ending millennia of imperial rule. Imagine a crowd in Nanjing, cheering as the Republic of China is declared, their voices echoing with hope and uncertainty. The Qing's fall marked the dawn of a modern China, one that would face new struggles but carry forward the resilience of its past. Picture a student clutching a Republican flag, dreaming of a nation reborn, his heart alight with possibility. As the night grows still, we stand at the threshold of a new era, the Qing's legacy a bridge to modernity. Their empire, vast and complex, preserved China's culture while grappling with a changing world. The Forbidden City remains, a silent witness to centuries of triumph and loss. What lies beyond this final imperial chapter, as China steps into the modern age, its spirit forged by millennia of history? The answer lies in the dreams of a people ready to shape their own destiny, a story that continues to unfold under the same stars we gaze upon tonight. As the first light of dawn begins to soften the edges of the night, imagine standing once more on the Great Wall, its stones whispering tales of emperors, poets, and dreamers who shaped a civilization that has endured for over 5 millennia. The journey we've taken together through China's history, from the misty legends of the Xia to the vibrant markets of the Qing, has been a tapestry woven with threads of triumph, resilience, and transformation. Picture the Yellow River, its waters flowing ceaselessly, carrying the echoes of ancient farmers, scholars, and warriors who built a nation that not only survived but thrived through cycles of unity and division, innovation and invasion. This is China's story, a saga that feels as vast as the stars above, yet as intimate as a single voice reciting poetry in a quiet courtyard. We began in the dawn of civilization, where myths of gods and heroes laid the foundations of a culture rooted in harmony with the land. The Shang gave us writing, etched on oracle bones, a gift that preserved the soul of a people. The Zhou introduced the mandate of heaven, a principle that bound rulers to justice, while the warring states forged strategies and philosophies that still guide us today. The Qin's iron will unite a fractured land, leaving monuments like the Great Wall and terracotta warriors to stand as silent sentinels. The Han opened the Silk Road, weaving China into the world's embrace, while the Tang painted a golden age of poetry and art. The Song dazzled with invention, the Yuan bridged cultures, and the Ming sailed to distant shores, their forbidden city a testament to ambition. Finally, the Qing, vast and complex, faced the modern world, their fall marking the end of an imperial era and the birth of a new China. Each dynasty, each era, was a chapter in a story that feels alive, pulsing with the dreams and struggles of millions. Imagine a scholar under a lantern's glow, a merchant on a desert road, a farmer tilling fields under a boundless sky. their lives, their hopes, are the heartbeat of this history. China's past is not just a chronicle of emperors and battles, but a reflection of humanity's capacity to create, endure, and reimagine itself. From the invention of paper to the verses of Li Bai, from the terracotta army to the canals of Suzhou, China's legacy is a gift to the world, a reminder that even in turmoil, beauty and wisdom can flourish. As we stand at the end of this journey, let the stories linger like the fading notes of a guqin, inviting you to reflect on a civilization that shaped not just a nation, but the course of history. Whether you listen to drift into sleep or to marvel at the past, I hope this tale has sparked a curiosity to explore further, to walk the paths of China's ancient cities in your imagination, or perhaps one day in person. The night may be fading, but the story of China continues, its future as vibrant as its past, waiting for new voices to carry it forward. So, my dear listeners, if this journey through China's history has stirred your heart, I invite you to join me again. Subscribe to my channel for more stories that weave history with the soothing cadence of the night, perfect for bedtime or quiet reflection. Leave a comment below, share which dynasty captivated you most, or what part of China's past you'd love to explore next. Perhaps the tailies of the Silk Road or the poetry of the Tang. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this Odyssey, and share this video with someone who might find peace in its stories. For those eager to dive deeper,